Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the massive paradox that is the modern Mexican economy. It's a story of incredible, world-changing promise and, at the same time, terrifying peril, often happening on the very same street.
To really get what's going on, let's set a scene. I want you to imagine you're behind the wheel of a semi-truck. It's loaded with $2 million worth of electronics, and you're heading for the Texas border in the dead of night. You look out your window to the right, and you see the future. The enormous steel skeleton of a brand new gigafactory just rising up from the dust. But then, you check your rearview mirror. A black pickup truck, no license plates, flashes its high beams. You know exactly who that is, and you know exactly what they want.
In that single, heart-stopping moment, you are staring directly at the two faces of Mexico's economy. The industrial beast that's booming like never before, and the violent shadow that haunts its every move. That's the core tension we're unpacking today.
So, let's start with the boom. And trust me, this isn't just good news. This is a world-changing economic shift that has suddenly put Mexico right at the center of a new global gold rush. For decades, the mantra was simple, right? Make it cheap in China, sell it in America. But after the pandemic completely shattered global supply chains and geopolitical tensions went through the roof, CEOs had this big realization. Having your entire production line on the other side of the planet was a terrible idea. And who was right there, next door, ready to pick up the business? Mexico. And the result of that big realization? A literal gold rush. Just let this sink in for a second. For the first time in 20 years, the United States buys more stuff from Mexico than it does from China. And we're not talking about cheap toys here. We are talking about high-end manufacturing, especially cars and electronics. This massive flood of foreign investment has done something incredible to Mexico's currency. The peso, which was kind of the punching bag in emerging markets for a long time, has become a global powerhouse. It's called the super peso, and it's been appreciating like crazy against the dollar, defying all expectations. But, and this is a huge but, here's the crucial point. Mexico might have the golden ticket, but its basic infrastructure is screaming for help. You've got these billion-dollar factories ready to build the next generation of electric vehicles, but the electrical grid is underfunded and flickering, and major industrial cities are literally running out of water. The Aztec Tiger is thirsty. Okay, now let's turn off the lights and look at the part of the economy that never shows up in those glossy World Bank reports. We're diving into the world of Narco-Nomics. Now, if you think cartels are just drug gangs, you're living in the 1990s. Today, they're more like diversified multinational corporations. And get this, a recent study revealed that organized crime is the fifth largest employer in all of Mexico, with more people on its payroll than huge companies like PEMEX or OXXO. Their biggest impact on the legal economy comes from this, the Peso de Cobro, or the floor tax. Basically, everyone from the corner taco stand to massive avocado farms has to pay a weekly security fee. This drives up the prices of everything, creating what some people call blood guacamole, where the cost of avocados in New York suddenly spikes because a cartel dispute shut down a highway in Michoacan. And the total cost is just staggering. The economic impact of all this violence is estimated to be up to 20% of the country's entire GDP. I mean, can you imagine losing 1/5 of the entire US economy to gangs every single year? That is the massive anchor dragging down what should be an economic rocket ship. But, you know, the cartels aren't the only anchor. Some of the biggest obstacles holding Mexico back are actually deeply embedded within the state itself. So meet PEMEX, the state-owned oil company. It was once the nation's piggy bank, but now it's the most indebted oil company on the entire planet, owing over $100 billion. It's bloated, it's inefficient, and the government just keeps pouring billions of taxpayer dollars into propping it up, basically betting the house on a 20th century business model. Another really complicated part of this whole picture is remittances. Mexicans working abroad send home over $60 billion a year. And that's a vital lifeline for millions of families. But as this quote puts it, it's also a clear sign of domestic failure. It means the Aztec Tiger can't provide enough good jobs for its own people, forcing its most valuable resource, its ambitious youth, to leave the country. And this all ties into another huge challenge, the sheer scale of the informal economy. More than half of the entire workforce operates completely on a cash basis. They don't really exist on paper, they pay zero income tax, and they get absolutely no benefits. So, because over half the country doesn't pay taxes, the government is just perpetually broke. It collects far less in tax revenue than other developed nations. And this creates a vicious cycle, a doom loop. The government provides poor services because it has no money, and people refuse to pay taxes because, well, the services are terrible.
So you've got all these internal and external tensions, and they are all building towards a single, incredibly high-stakes deadline that could change absolutely everything for North America.
Okay, here's the big plot twist in the nearshoring story. It turns out that a lot of Mexico's export growth is actually Chinese. It's a strategy called transshipment. Chinese companies ship parts to Mexico, do the final assembly there, and then ship the made-in-Mexico product to the U.S. completely tariff-free. To put it mildly, Washington is furious and feels like it's being played. And for any investor looking at this, that anger is compounded by another deep fear, the weakness of the rule of law. Just take this story. A U.S. company was 70% done building a 1.4 times billion-dollar brewery with every single permit approved. But the president decided he didn't like it, held a sham public vote, and just canceled the project overnight. The message to the world was clear. In Mexico, a politician's mood can be more powerful than a legal contract. This all comes to a head in July 2026. That's when the big U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade deal is up for its mandatory review. The U.S. could very well walk in and say, kick China out of your factories and fix your courts, or we kick you out of our market. The entire nearshoring boom depends on this deal. So, the bottom line is this. Mexico is standing on a razor's edge. Geopolitics has handed it the golden ticket, the opportunity of a century. But it is held back by these incredibly powerful internal anchors. It is, perhaps, the luckiest unlucky country on Earth, a nation constantly at war with itself. And that leaves us with a final question for you. Looking at all of this, the incredible, almost unbelievable opportunity, and the profound, undeniable risk, if you had $1 billion to invest, would you bet on Mexico? The answer to that question is going to define the future of the entire North American economy.